Republican candidate Rand Paul heavily criticizing the Clinton Foundation this morning for accepting these donations from some countries which have terrible records on women's rights. Should they return that money?
Look, the foundation is the foundation, and, you know, they're going to have to sort whatever it is they do out. I mean, this woman is, you know, running for president now. We'll see how she handles all of this, but she's, you know, it's her second time. I do think she is ready for this time, and there's a lot of energy there.
Ooh, a lot of energy. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, shame on her, as I said earlier, for not answering the question. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel, two people who I know will answer the question. Larry Elder, radio host and, of course, author of Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours, and David Goodfriend, Democratic strategist and former deputy staff secretary to President Bill Clinton. David, let me start with you.
Sure.
Tina may not have answered the question, but there's a book coming out which is going to ask and raise a lot of questions. Clinton Cash, the untold story of how and why foreign governments and businesses helped make Bill and Hillary rich. They document in there the donations from countries who treat women like garbage and kill gays. They document in there what they say could be quid pro quos, changes of policy within the State Department after contributions are received. My God, take Chipotle, whatever the heck it's called, and take the van and take, and who cares? This is going to do Hillary in.
Well, I certainly disagree with that. It's not going to do Hillary in, but I think all those contributions are fair game for anybody to look at and criticize or praise or anything else. And the real question here, and this goes to not just the Clinton Foundation contributions, but contributions to any presidential campaign, contributions to any Senate campaign, was there a quid pro quo? That's a legitimate question to ask. I think that's a legitimate question to ask. And that is a fair question to ask, too, by the way. It's one thing to accept a contribution. It's quite another to have it tied to some official act. And I think Hillary Clinton will prove to be a very upstanding public servant in everything she's ever done with respect to contributions. But it's fair for someone to ask, absolutely.
All right. And Larry, of course, quid pro quo could lead to charges. I mean, if there was a quid pro quo. But to me, you know, she was asked at her press conference on the emails about the contributions from countries that don't treat women well, and she said, "I'm proud of what our foundation has done." I don't think that's going to fly. When Rand Paul and others say give the money back, what is she going to say? No.
Well, I agree with you. If I were defending her, I'd switch it over to the quid pro quo part of it, because that's almost impossible to prove. The hypocrisy, though, is something that's going to stick to her, because you have all these countries that have all these human rights violations getting money from the Clinton Foundation. It makes them look hypocritical. That's going to be a huge, huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, David, I mean, don't you see, or let me ask you, do you see how a woman who's running as a woman who's running that she's championed women's rights her whole life, and a woman who makes it a point to put in her opening salvo commercial, whatever you want to call it, you know, gay marriage people in there and the whole thing, and gay men, and she's taking money from countries that hold women back, persecute gays, kill gays. And this is a family foundation. This isn't a presidential election where campaign contributions might slip in. This is run by specifically the names on the ledger: Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea. How do they square taking those donations?
Here is how. When I worked in the White House for President Clinton, I heard him say over and over again, if I offer $1 and I get a deal that's 50 cents on the dollar, I'd rather take that 50 cents and do a deal than walk away entirely. So in the case of a country that has an abhorrent human rights record, for example, if building a relationship with that government means being able to get a better outcome for some people some of the time, the Clintons will do that deal. If it means being able to build a foundation that can do great things around the world with corporations and individuals and governments, they'll do that deal. And I think for you to say, well, they took the money and therefore the entire thing is corrupt, that's one bridge too far. You have to ask yourself this question: what was accomplished? Was there somebody better off as a result of that relationship?
Yeah, the Clintons were better off, Larry. The Clintons.
It reminds me of the deal that Obama got with the Castro brothers. It reminds me of the deal that Obama got dealing Bo Bergdahl. What, in fact, has happened as a result of the money that the Clintons have taken? Have the Clintons put any pressure on any of these countries to improve their human rights record? If so, where's the evidence of that? I see no evidence of it. They can say whatever they want to say. We improved this, we improved that. Where is the proof? It looks to me like you took money and then altered your position on something.
All right, we're coming back. Wait, David, we're coming back. Part two of the panel, right here. Larry Elder, David Goodfriend. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the panel, Larry Elder and David Goodfriend. And gentlemen, another ISIS video which purportedly shows the killing of Ethiopian Christians in Libya. This is another thing Hillary's going to have to wind up speaking to. Libya has become just a disaster area of the first degree. And along with that, we have a Rasmussen poll talking about terror and Muslims. And it shows that 39% of those polled in this country believe that we are losing the war on terror. But perhaps more enlightening, 49% of Americans believe that Muslims around the world view the U.S. as an enemy. What about it, David?
Well, I've said on your show before, let's put right out there, right up front, ISIS is evil and has to be defeated. There's no doubt in my mind. I would argue that if Hillary Clinton were on your program, she'd say the same thing. And part of that means being very smart in getting support from Arab countries in the Middle East that are fighting ISIS right now. And part of that means not alienating Muslims in those countries where we're trying to get support from Jordan, from Saudi Arabia, from lots of different countries around the world. So I think I want to be very careful about saying who the enemy is and who the enemy isn't. The enemy is ISIS, the enemy is terrorism, the enemy is any enemy of the United States. The enemy is not Islam. In fact, a lot of our allies are Muslim countries.
Well, the enemy is radical Islam, and if you don't recognize that, you're not going to beat it, Larry. And I got to tell you, if we were so concerned about pleasing the countries that are Muslim and are and we're counting on, then we should give them the gosh darn weapons that they're begging for, so they could fight ISIS.
Well, you're right. Christians may not believe we're at war against radical Islam, but radical Islam believes we're at war against Christianity. And this poll shows you that Americans do not believe that we are winning this war. Americans believe that Obama's foreign policy has failed, and Hillary Clinton is going to have to account for that. She was one of those who agreed in the joint bombing with the British and the French of Libya. A lot of people opposed that. I was one of them. So she's going to have a lot to account for. Now, this is out of control, and the strategy that Obama is using is not working.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about another hypocrite here.
Go
ahead, David. Sure, go ahead.
Well, the one thing I want to point out is that poll after poll after poll shows that the vast majority of Americans do not want to send our soldiers for boots on the ground over to another woe-begotten Middle Eastern war.
We don't have to send boots on the ground, David. We got Iraq. We got the Iraqi prime minister over here last week begging for weapons. We've had other countries here begging for weapons. We've had Kurds begging for weapons. If this country wanted to beat ISIS, we could beat ISIS in a month. We have no desire to beat ISIS. This president has no desire to defeat and eliminate ISIS, period.
Steve, let me tell you something. I've seen polls showing that a greater number of Americans do want boots on the ground. Even Rand Paul has said he's willing to put boots on the ground to defeat ISIS. So this attitude of no boots on the ground is rapidly changing to the point where now I believe a majority of Americans are in favor of boots on the ground.
And David, you know why it's changing? Larry's right. And David, you know why it's changing? Because it's a war on Christians. That's why it's changing.
Well, let's go back to the poll numbers. Rand Paul just said that if the Republicans he's running against were in charge, it would be 10 times worse when it comes to sending boots on the ground.
He was talking about Libya. He was talking about Libya specifically.
So we want. Well, let's talk about Rand
No, we don't
Paul.
have time. We don't have time. The fact of the matter is, as long as Christians are beheaded and slaughtered and killed because they're Christians, the world will eventually rise up once Barack Obama, who the devout Christian in the White House, is out of the White House. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. David Goodfriend, Larry Elder. Up next, it's Gimme 5. But first, we brought back our viewer call-in segment here on the show. So if you want to weigh in on the issues of the day, we would love to hear from you. But you have to be proactive. You have to reach out to us first. so we could then get back to you and set the whole thing up, okay? It's not like talk radio per se. So you have to email us at callsteve@newsmax.com. Call Steve at newsmax.com. Do it now. We want to hear from you, and then we'll pick one of the 100 people on our huge staff to get back to you and set the whole thing up, all right? Remember, though, we want to hear from you. Don't go away.